Welcome back. I'm Nathan Cole. Most world records are meant to be broken. These were abandoned because too many people never survived trying. From a woman who kept eating long after the challenge should have ended, to a performer who accepted one small change, to a fire stunt, ending in the craziest way possible. It was October 14, 2018 in Las Vegas, Nevada, where a small banquet hall had been rented for a private eating event. Long tables were filled with oversized meals. Cameras pointed toward the front of the room, and a small crowd gathered to watch. Thousands more followed the live stream from home. The whole event had one purpose from the very beginning. The person at the center of it was Jolisa Whitman, a 29-year-old competitive eating content creator and former restaurant challenge champion. She had built a large online following by finishing bigger meals than most people thought were possible. As her audience grew, so did the pressure to keep topping her last video. This time, she announced that she wanted to beat the old stories about people eating unbelievable amounts of food, even though modern record organizations avoid recognizing challenges that encourage life-threatening behavior. She hired 2 videographers, an independent scorekeeper, and an event coordinator. A paramedic had originally been part of the plan, but that service was canceled after the budget was reduced, leaving organizers to rely on emergency responders if anything went wrong. I think that's the first moment this story started heading in the wrong direction. Cutting the only medical backup for a dangerous challenge never feels like a smart trade. The meals arrived one after another. Several recovery breaks had been built into the event, but as more people joined the live stream, donations climbed faster than expected. New donation goals unlocked extra courses that had never been part of the original plan. Every finished meal brought louder cheers inside the hall. As the hours passed, Jolisa kept eating large amounts of food and liquid without taking those planned breaks. Experienced competitive eaters had already warned online that unlimited eating was far more dangerous than regulated contests, but she believed she could handle it. Friends reminded her that she had already gone beyond the amount she first planned to eat. I think this is the moment where the record stopped mattering. She had already impressed everyone in the room except herself. She thanked them, but refused to stop because the unofficial record still had not been reached. The signs that something was wrong became harder to ignore. She moved more carefully between courses and often held her stomach before sitting back down. Crew members urged her to end the event, but Jolisa said she was only feeling overly full, something she had experienced during past food challenges. No one believed she was facing a life-threatening emergency. Honestly, I think that was probably the smartest advice anyone gave that day. The crew hesitated before bringing out the next oversized course, but Jolisa insisted on continuing because the latest donation goal had already been reached. She finished the meal, smiled toward the cameras, and tried to stand. Moments later, she suddenly collapsed as the severe internal injury sent her body into shock. It still amazes me how one more plate can become the difference between going home and never making it home at all. People rushed to help while someone called emergency responders. CPR began immediately. At the hospital, emergency scans showed that her stomach had stretched far beyond what it could safely hold. The extreme pressure had caused it to rupture, leading to severe internal injuries. Surgeons performed emergency surgery, but the damage was too great to repair. She died later that evening. Recordings of the live stream quickly spread across social media, but the attention soon turned into a warning. Medical experts explained that the stomach has physical limits, and forcing it beyond those limits can become deadly. The official findings concluded that Jolisa died from extreme stretching of the stomach that led to a rupture and catastrophic internal injuries. Doctors also determined that the time between the injury and receiving advanced medical treatment reduced her chances of survival. After the case, streaming platforms strengthened rules on dangerous eating challenges, while competitive eating groups reminded people why organized events have strict limits, trained medical staff, and clear safety rules. Investigators found no evidence of foul play. Jolisa's death resulted from continuing an unofficial eating challenge long after repeated warnings made it clear that stopping was the only safe decision. Jolisa kept chasing a record long after her body said stop. The next story follows someone convinced he could keep pushing too. It was August 20th, 2019 on the Gold Coast in Australia, where a rented warehouse had been turned into a private live stream studio. Folding tables held rows of bottles and glasses, while cameras were placed around the room to record the event. A small group of friends helped with the setup, and more viewers kept joining the broadcast before the challenge began. The man behind it was Earl Boyd, a 34-year-old hospitality worker who also created nightlife videos online. His channel had started with simple bar reviews and party clips, but one claim appeared so often in the comments that he eventually decided to answer it. Viewers insisted nobody could really drink as much as he claimed, without exaggerating. Earl believed years of working around alcohol had given him an unusually high tolerance, and he announced a live stream where he intended to prove exactly that. Friends measured every serving while another person kept track of the amount he consumed. Everyone assumed the challenge would end long before it became a medical emergency, so no one expected to need more than basic first aid supplies on site. I picture Earl as someone who truly believed experience made him different. I've met people like that, and they usually don't think the warning is meant for them. The challenge began without problems. Earl joked with the audience, answered questions between drinks, and drank at a steady pace. The live stream quickly gained attention, bringing in thousands of viewers. The comment section became increasingly divided. Some people believed Earl's claims about his alcohol tolerance, while others accused him of exaggerating for attention. When Earl reached the amount he had originally planned to drink, many people expected the event to end. Instead, he decided to keep going. Earl kept reading the flood of comments and focused on the ones insisting he had not proved anything. He told viewers he was still completely in control and intended to settle the debate once and for all. Several bartenders he had hired for the event refused to pour another drink because they believed he had already gone beyond a safe limit. As clips from the live stream spread across social media, toxicologists and former bartenders posted warnings that no amount of alcohol tolerance could protect someone from poisoning. Earl ignored every warning. He insisted that years of working around alcohol had taught him exactly how much his body could handle. I've noticed that confidence can be dangerous when it's built on getting away with the same risk again and again. As more time passed, Earl's condition slowly worsened. His speech became difficult to understand. He struggled to keep his balance, and he reacted more slowly whenever someone spoke to him. Friends repeatedly asked him to stop before something went wrong. Honestly, I would have been perfectly fine ending the live stream right there. I'd rather have a friend upset with me than spend the rest of my life wishing I'd stepped in sooner. The group talked about shutting everything down, but nobody wanted the situation to become a physical struggle while the cameras were rolling, especially since Earl kept insisting he was still in control. Eventually, everyone refused to pour another drink for him. Earl picked up a bottle himself and filled one last glass. That decision belonged to nobody else. He drank it, tried speaking to the audience again, but his words no longer made sense. Before long, he became completely unresponsive and slumped forward in his chair. I wish someone had taken that bottle away and accepted whatever anger came afterward. That would have been a far better ending than the one this story got. Friends immediately called for emergency help and followed the instructions they received until responders arrived. Earl was taken to a hospital where blood testing confirmed a critically high alcohol level consistent with acute alcohol poisoning. Doctors tried to save him, but the damage was already too severe. He died despite intensive treatment. Recordings of the live stream spread across the internet within hours, but the attention quickly shifted from entertainment to warning. Medical experts explained that alcohol tolerance only changes how intoxicated a person may feel. It does not stop alcohol from slowing breathing, damaging the brain, or shutting down the body. Streaming platforms later strengthened their rules against dangerous drinking challenges, and similar independently organized events became far less common. Investigators found no evidence of foul play. Witness statements, the live stream recordings, blood test results, and medical findings all supported the same conclusion. Earl Boyd's death was accidental and resulted from choosing to continue the unofficial drinking challenge long after repeated warnings made it clear that stopping was the only safe decision. Earl believed experience made him the exception. Karina's story begins with a performance that ignored the same kind of warnings. It was September 9th, 2016, in a rural part of Oklahoma, where a large hole had been dug in an open field for a public stunt. Temporary fences surrounded the area. Cameras faced the pit from different angles, and a crowd slowly gathered nearby. The ground was still damp after several days of rain, something that several workers had already pointed out before the event even began. The performer was Karina Sterling, a 31-year-old escape artist who made a living performing at fairs and festivals. She had escaped from locked crates, chains, and underwater tanks, but she wanted something far bigger to make people remember her. Her goal was to stay buried underground longer than anyone else had publicly attempted in years. A custom steel chamber had been built with thick, clear panels so people above could still see her. Engineers had recommended adding extra outside supports because the rain had softened the soil. Those changes were delayed to keep the project within budget. Backup air equipment had also been purchased, but the crew decided to rely on the chamber's built-in air supply because the backup system had not been fully installed before the scheduled event. Maybe it's just me, but whenever I hear someone say, "We'll be fine without it," I immediately wonder why they bought it in the first place. Before the attempt started, local contractors again warned that the ground did not feel as solid as it normally would after so much rain. The rescue plan had only been practiced once, and the closest excavator belonged to a nearby contractor about 15 minutes away. Karina chose to move forward because months of planning, a waiting crowd, and thousands of online viewers made canceling feel like failure. I'll admit, I understand how hard it is to stop after putting months of work into something, but I don't think any audience is worth proving yourself to if the ground beneath your feet is already warning you to walk away. The steel chamber was lowered into the hole, and workers carefully covered it with dirt. At first, everything appeared normal. Karina stayed calm while cameras inside the chamber showed her waiting for the challenge to continue. Above ground, crew members watched the pressure readings and listened through the microphones inside. The crowd remained relaxed because nothing suggested the situation was about to change. After some time, the pressure readings slowly climbed higher than expected. Crew members also began hearing unusual cracking sounds through the microphones. Not long afterward, the airflow started becoming uneven. Some people wanted to begin digging immediately, but the monitoring equipment still suggested the chamber was holding together, so others believed there was enough time for a controlled rescue instead of rushing and making the ground even more unstable. Those few minutes passed faster than anyone realized. Then, the wet ground shifted. The heavy soil pushed against the chamber until one side buckled under the pressure before anyone could pull Karina out. The part that sticks with me isn't the collapse itself. It's knowing there were several chances to call the whole thing off before the first shovel of dirt ever touched that chamber. Emergency crews were called as workers tried to reach her, but the softened ground kept slowing the rescue. The nearby excavator arrived as quickly as possible, yet crews had to remove the soil in stages because another collapse could have trapped both the rescuers and the damaged chamber. Digging continued for several hours before they finally reached her. Karina had already run out of breathable air. She was pronounced dead after rescuers recovered her. Later examinations showed that the chamber had failed after the weakened soil placed far more pressure on it than it had been designed to withstand. Engineering reviews concluded that the extra outside supports recommended before the event could have greatly improved its strength, while the unfinished backup air system removed valuable time that rescuers might have needed. The documentary footage spread quickly because thousands of viewers had watched the rescue attempt unfold live. Professional escape artists openly criticized the decision to continue after days of heavy rain, and organizers canceled future burial endurance events. Safety experts pointed to the case as another reminder of why buried alive record attempts had nearly disappeared. Investigators found no evidence of foul play. We've got more disturbing record attempt tragedies coming up, so hit that subscribe button if you want to see how chasing impossible feats can turn even deadlier in seconds. It was April 3, 2021, on a quiet highway crossing the Nevada desert. The sky was still dark before sunrise, and traffic was light across the long stretch of road. Far behind one speeding sedan, a support vehicle followed the same route, while people online watched the car's progress through live GPS updates. The support crew intentionally stayed several miles back to avoid drawing attention to the convoy while still tracking her location. Every mile mattered, because the entire attempt depended on staying ahead of schedule. Behind the wheel was Melody Foster, a 37-year-old automotive journalist and amateur endurance driver. She had spent years testing performance cars and writing about long-distance driving, but now she wanted to complete an underground coast-to-coast driving benchmark that rewarded finishing the trip in the shortest possible time. She spent months preparing a modified high-performance sedan, while a support crew planned quick fuel stops and monitored the car's progress. The unofficial challenge required Melody to drive this section alone, leaving leaving the support team to meet her only at planned stops. The schedule left room for only brief naps because longer rest breaks would almost certainly ruin the attempt. Experienced endurance drivers warned that exhaustion, not mechanical failure, usually ended runs like these. The first thing I do before any road trip is figure out where I'm gonna rest. Hearing someone treat sleep like wasted time honestly feels backwards to me. As the trip continued, Melody stayed ahead of the planned pace. Online followers celebrated every checkpoint she reached early, and automotive websites began covering the attempt. The attention only made the record seem closer. During one scheduled stop, members of the support crew urged her to get a proper overnight rest before crossing Nevada. They could advise her, but the decision to continue was hers alone. Melody refused because she did not want to lose the lead she had worked so hard to build. Part of me understands why she kept going. After investing so much into chasing that goal, stopping probably felt like throwing the whole trip away. The sad part is that the road didn't care how much effort she'd already put in. Before sunrise, Melody entered a remote section of highway, with the support vehicles still several miles behind. Later, dashcam footage showed the car wandering within its lane more often than it had earlier in the journey. The vehicle's stored driving data also confirmed she had gone an unusually long time without meaningful sleep. Investigators found no signs of a mechanical problem with the car. As the sedan reached a long, gentle curve, the dashcam showed no sudden steering movement, only a slow drift across the center line. An oncoming commercial truck driver reacted immediately by braking hard and steering toward the shoulder, but there was not enough space to avoid the crash. The collision crushed the driver's side of Melody's car and caused catastrophic injuries. If you showed me only those last few seconds, probably would have thought she'd steer back into her lane. That's what makes driving while exhausted so frightening. It can take away that chance before you even realize what's happening. Emergency responders arrived within minutes, but Melody's injuries were not survivable, and she was pronounced dead at the scene. The truck driver survived after managing to steer partly off the roadway during the collision. The support crew reached the crash shortly afterward and immediately turned over the GPS records, driving logs and vehicle data to investigators. Investigators later reconstructed almost the entire trip using the tracking information stored during the attempt. Dashcam footage, vehicle data, and witness statements all pointed to the same chain of events. There was no evidence of a tire failure, brake problem, or steering defect. Instead, investigators concluded that prolonged fatigue combined with sustained illegal highway speeds caused Melody to lose control as she entered the curve. The documentary planned around the record attempt was never released, and road safety experts later used the case to warn about underground endurance driving culture. Automotive writers also criticized challenges that reward staying awake instead of stopping to rest. Melody refused to slow down because the goal felt too close. The final story centers on a performer who agreed to go just a little longer. It was February 11, 2017, in Johannesburg, South Africa, where an outdoor stage had been prepared for a televised charity show. Fire crews stood beside the performance area with extinguishers and medical equipment ready to use. Cameras surrounded the stage, a large crowd filled the seats, and the performance was being broadcast live. The event had been planned for weeks, and everything was supposed to follow a carefully rehearsed schedule. The headline performer was Evangeline Calder, a 26-year-old professional stunt performer who specialized in controlled fire scenes for television commercials. She had safely completed many shorter full-body burns during her career, earning a reputation for taking preparation seriously. The stunt had been rehearsed the day before, and the safety team had approved a maximum burn time based on normal industry practice. One thing I've always admired about professional stunt performers is that they usually respect safety more than anyone watching them. That's why it's especially surprising when someone with that much experience decides to push past the limit anyway. As the event began, audience excitement grew much faster than expected. Television coverage attracted more attention than organizers had anticipated, and producers realized the performance was becoming the biggest part of the broadcast. Someone suggested extending the burn beyond the original ending so the audience could watch longer. The lead safety coordinator immediately disagreed and recommended sticking with the rehearsal plan. Fire suppression crews remained in position, prepared to end the stunt once the agreed termination signal was given. After discussing it with the production team, Evangeline agreed to continue because she believed the extension would only last a little longer and that her protective gear would remain effective. If you asked me to change the safest part of a dangerous plan while it was already happening, my answer would be no every single time. Some decisions shouldn't depend on how many people are watching. The stunt began with Evangeline wearing professional fire-resistant clothing covered with protective gel. Crew members ignited the suit, and she performed exactly as she had during rehearsal. At first, nothing appeared unusual. The flames stayed controlled, and the fire crews remained only a few steps away while safety staff carefully watched the passing time. The planned ending came and went. Instead of giving the agreed termination signal, Evangeline indicated that she was able to continue, and the performance carried on. As more seconds passed, the protective gel gradually dried, while parts of the fire-resistant clothing absorbed more heat than they had been designed to handle. Safety personnel repeatedly indicated that the stunt had reached its planned limit, but Evangeline continued performing for several more moments. Then, the protective gel finally failed in several areas, allowing the flames to burn through and leave her with severe burns. Once it became clear that conditions were no longer safe, the termination order was given immediately. Fire crews rushed in without hesitation and extinguished the flames within seconds before paramedics began treating her. I honestly think the audience stopped caring about the record the moment the safety team started urging the stunt to end. At that point, I don't believe anyone wanted a longer show. They just wanted to see her stand back up. Evangeline was taken to a regional burn center, where doctors immediately began treating her extensive injuries. Burn specialists continued working to save her over the following days, but serious complications developed despite intensive care. She later died from those complications. Professional stunt organizations later reminded performers that burn time limits are based on the proven limits of protective clothing and safety equipment, not on entertainment value. Television producers also faced criticism for requesting that the stunt continue after the lead safety coordinator had recommended ending it as planned. The case became part of stunt safety training and reinforced why major record organizations no longer recognize prolonged fire endurance performances. Investigators concluded that by continuing beyond the approved burn time, Evangeline remained exposed long enough for her protective gear to fail, leaving her with irreversible injuries.